Hello guys, I'm Tom, and today we're going to explore what the Domus Mactabilis is, one of the most terrifying, complex, and fascinating beings in horror cinema. The Monster House, or, as some scholars of the occult prefer to call it, Domus Mactabilis. It is much more than a lifeless setting within the film Monster House. Unlike other haunted houses in fiction, this building is not limited to being a space where frightening events occur. It becomes the silent protagonist, the beating heart of the horror that envelopes the story. Its wood creaks, its windows watch like eyes, and its foundations pulse as if veins full of restrained rage. We are not facing a common structure, but a creature that breathes, observes, and attacks. Its essence is none other than Constance Nebercracker, trapped in an eternal limbo between life and death, transformed into a malevolent presence that demands justice for the torment suffered during her earthly existence. The tragedy begins long before the house rises. Constance, marked by an imposing physical size due to her morbid obesity, never had a peaceful childhood or adolescence. Her fate was sealed at an early age when she was turned into a sideshow attraction, exhibited in a circus under the cruel label of the Giant Woman. This, more than a job, was a perpetual chain of humiliation. The public did not see her as a person, but as a grotesque monster worthy of ridicule. Hurtful laughter, mocking screams, and objects thrown by visiting children pierced her self-esteem day after day, leaving invisible yet indelible scars. In life, Constance was a mistreated soul, relegated to the margins of human dignity. The turning point in her story came when Horace Nebercracker appeared, a peculiar and solitary man, but one capable of seeing beyond the obvious. He was not swayed by her physical appearance or the social stigmas Constance carried. On the contrary, he perceived a hidden nobility beneath layers of pain. Fascinated by her essence, he decided to free her from that life of humiliation. He offered her something she had never had: respect, affection, and a sense of belonging. Constance, deeply moved, accepted his proposal without hesitation. Soon they married and began dreaming together of a home where they could live in peace, away from the cruel gazes of the world. Nebercracker, full of hope, showed her a plot of land he had acquired. There, they planned to build their house, a safe haven, a symbol of love and hope. However, fate had other plans. Misfortune began even before the walls were fully standing. On the eve of Halloween, a group of mischievous children approached the site and started throwing eggs, stones, and trash onto the construction. To anyone else, it might have seemed like childish mischief, a simple prank. But to Constance, used to being the target of disdain and mockery since childhood, that act was a devastating blow. It was not a joke. It was a cruel reminder of a lifetime of humiliation. Her fury, fueled by years of resentment, overflowed. Constance's heart-wrenching screams echoed across the construction site as Nebercracker tried to calm her with sweet words, assuring her that they were just children playing. But nothing mattered to her. The accumulated pain turned into pure rage. In a desperate outburst, she grabbed Nebercracker's axe, determined to drive the intruders away. The struggle between them was chaotic, and in that fatal moment, Constance lost her balance. She fell into the unfinished basement, accidentally triggering the cement mixer. The liquid material engulfed her completely, burying her within seconds. Constance died there, suffocated in an atrocious silence, yet her spirit never left that place. Devastated, Nebercracker made a decision that would forever shape the destiny of the building. He did not remove his wife's body, nor give her the burial she deserved. Instead, he left her beneath the foundations as a sort of hidden altar. In his heart, he preferred to keep her there, close to him, rather than face absolute solitude. It was an act born of love, yes, but also of selfishness. Unwittingly, with that decision, he sealed Constance's fate, whose trapped spirit merged with the walls, ceilings, and foundations of the house. The architectural design of the house, with windows that seemed like eyes and a door that evoked a mouth, further facilitated the transformation. Constance found a new body in that structure. Thus, what was meant to be a refuge of love became a living monster, a home with a will of its own. Over the years, Nebercracker realized that this had been a fatal mistake. The house was dangerous, hungry for life, and every Halloween it awakened with greater fury. Yet destroying it meant letting go of Constance forever, the only person who had ever loved him. For Nebercracker, facing absolute solitude was a torment deeper than the curse itself. The mystery becomes even more unsettling when the protagonists, DJ, Chowder, and Jenny, meet Skull, an eccentric young man who, amid video games and comic conventions, had heard rumors about the so-called Domus Mactabilis. According to these legends, there existed buildings possessed by human souls that refused to depart, merging with the physical space. These houses were not mere haunted buildings, but organisms that breathed with a heart of fire. And, as Nebercracker explained in a moment of revelation, the only way to stop them was to extinguish that burning heart that kept them alive. The climax arrives when the wrecking machine strikes the house with fury. In that instant, the remnants of Constance's spirit seem to be freed, finally breaking the bond with the structure. The monster, which had transcended the limits of its own land, collapses, leaving behind an echo of tragedy and redemption. What began as the dream of building a home of love and protection ended up becoming a deadly threat to anyone who approached. The story of Constance Nebercracker, her body trapped in the foundations, combined with her husband's sentimental attachment, gave life to the Monster House, one of the most unsettling, original, and memorable entities in animated cinema. A work that, beyond the fantastic, speaks to human pain, the ghosts born of contempt, and how love, taken to the extreme, can transform into eternal damnation. Everything that happened over the years allowed the creature to integrate completely with the structure of the house, not merely as a spectral presence trapped in the foundations, but as a living organism in constant transformation. The fusion with the materials, wood, cement, pipes, and iron beams, did not stop at the basics. Gradually, the construction began to mutate into something increasingly humanoid, though grotesque in appearance. Over time, unimaginable elements emerged, twisted hands sprouting from the walls, teeth made of wood and glass, capable of chewing, a cavernous voice that echoed through its empty hallways, and even a rudimentary stomach, which devoured everything that fell inside, as if the house itself were feeding. Each new feature was proof that this was no longer a mere possessed building, but a living, unpredictable, and hostile being, an evolution that plunged Horace Nebercracker into ever-deepening terror. To him, the house had become the embodiment of an irreparable mistake, a monster born from Constance's tragedy and his own inability to let her go. For years, he lived with this reality, hiding it from the rest of the neighborhood and silently carrying the weight of guilt. Yet, as time passed, he realized he could not postpone the inevitable. Sooner or later, he would have to destroy what he had helped create. When Horace was admitted to the hospital, the fragile reality of his old age struck him hard. The weight of the years, the weakness of his body, and the certainty that his days were numbered pushed him to make a definitive decision. Once he recovered enough to move, he returned home with unwavering determination. He would blow up the house with dynamite. He could not allow himself to die and leave behind such an abomination, a monster that posed a threat to anyone who approached, whether human or animal. "I must destroy what I myself created," he declared, his voice heavy with resolution and a hint of resignation. This plan, however, did not arise spontaneously. In his youth, Horace had served in a demolition squad, giving him not only the necessary experience, but also access to the proper materials. Over the years, he had stockpiled dynamite and other explosives in his home, as if, deep down, he knew that one day he would have to use them. His preparation was not merely that of a desperate man, but of someone who had lived too long with a dark secret, waiting for the moment when destruction would become inevitable. The outcome was as dramatic as it was poetic. When the dynamite exploded and the house was reduced to rubble, something extraordinary occurred. Constance's spirit, trapped for decades, was finally freed. Nevercracker, with tears in his eyes, exclaimed that after 45 years, both were finally free. He, from the creature he had helped shape, and she, from the eternal torment of being imprisoned in an unnatural existence. During my research for this video, I discovered that what happened with the monster house has a chilling parallel in certain popular legends that speak of a similar phenomenon. It is said that a person's spirit can merge with the place they inhabited, creating a terrifying hybrid, a being halfway between a ghost and a corporeal entity, which some occult scholars call a structural golem. One of the best-known stories is that of Pretorius II, a tyrannical king who ruled with an iron fist and was obsessed with reinforcing the security of his castle. His paranoia led him to personally oversee every brick, stone, and wall. Yet fate played a macabre trick on him. A poorly placed section of the walls collapsed upon him, crushing him and sealing his death. His soul, unable to accept the end, merged with the fortress itself, which began to transform into a living being. The fortress devoured animals and villagers who came too close, as if the king's own hunger had survived his death. Weapons of the time proved useless against such a creature. Only a group of brave villagers managed to defeat it by extinguishing the internal fire that served as the heart of the structure. The same method in the Monster House universe, presented as the only way to destroy a Domus Mactabilis. These and other legends inspired the creation of the Encyclopedia of Monsters, a fictional book developed as part of Monster House's viral marketing. The original script plan envisioned DJ, Chowder, and Jenny finding this forbidden tome, which would reveal the secrets of the Monster House. Although the idea was discarded in the final version, the official movie website featured illustrations and descriptions of several monster houses considered real within the film's universe. Among them are Baba Yaga's house, inspired by the famous Russian witch, with chicken legs that allowed it to move and hunt children to devour them. The Cellar's Fright, a house that used electric wires as a tongue, extending them to trap unsuspecting victims. Spirit Hut, or the Possessed Thing, a structural golem with eyes formed from tribal shields and teeth made of spears, considered one of the first documented Domus Mactabilis. The Rolling House, a trailer with window eyes, ventilation ducts that absorbed its victims, and a chimney that spewed fire as if it were breathing. The Victorian Monster, a large mansion with dozens of windows acting as watchful eyes and chimneys that exhaled burning smoke when enraged. A curious detail is that the story takes place in the fictional city of Emeryville, inspired by Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This connection is revealed when DJ mentions that his uncle works in Milwaukee. Additionally, the story is set in 1983, which explains why the cars, clothing, and objects on screen reflect that era. There is also a prequel comic that expands the backstory of secondary characters like Bones and Skull, showing how they had been part of a musical band and good friends. The comic also explains seemingly trivial but meaningful details, such as how Skull lost his kite in front of the Nevercracker house, his passion for Dungeons and Dragons, video games, and comics, elements that appear as Easter eggs in the film. Finally, it is worth noting that the film includes several homages to Stephen King. The girl on the tricycle is a clear nod to The Shining, the concept of living. Devouring houses appears in The Dark Tower, And the water gun Chowder uses against the mechanical monkey is a direct reference to the short story The Monkey. These literary nods reinforce the supernatural horror tone of the movie, linking it to the tradition of modern horror. In conclusion, the story of the monster house is not just about a haunted building. It is a human tragedy turned into myth, a symbol of pain and obsessive love transformed into a curse. The creature born from the bond between Constance and Nebercracker not only terrorized the children of Emeryville, but also left its mark as one of the most memorable representations of Domus Mactabilis in fiction.